Recording.
There you go.
Fantastic. Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to have you in our warm room. We know it's chilly outside, but right here we have a lot of warm conversation and time together. My name is Russ Frankel. I'm one of the facilitators of the group, and today's date is January 16th, 2026. This is our winter session for our Affinity Group meeting, in which we discuss co-req partnership work. And so, as is usual, this is the time we ask you in chat to introduce yourself, to let us know your first and last name, the organization you're with, and your role. And then one added piece, if you're new to the group, just simply indicate first time attendee in the chat as well. So we kind of have a sense of who's new to the space. And that allows us to understand maybe we need to elaborate on a thing or two because you might not have the history that lots of attendees do have. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Leslie Blicker. She co-facilitates this group with me. She's a delight. And take it away, Leslie. And you have to unmute, Leslie. Leslie, you're going to need to unmute.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah, thank you so much, Russ. I don't know if I deserve all that, but I'll take it as a small win. And Happy New Year again to everyone. And anyway, it's an interesting time that we're living in. I'll just say that here in Minnesota. But today we are focused on the co-req movement, and we're excited that we have, some progress updates to bring to you. Not only will I be providing some updates at the beginning, the first maybe 15 minutes or so, but we have some wonderful, very devoted Min-State folks here, faculty, who are involved in co-req, who will be adding to my updates from their perspectives, what's happening and what they know, because they've been serving on these various committees. So you can see the first 15, 20 minutes is facilitator updates. And then we have, 3 or 4 people here. We're delighted to have them here who will talk about, as I said, their experience on these committees and what they know to shore up what I've said. Time permitting, we're not sure. Yesterday we did. I think we had maybe 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes to hear from others or to open it up for general questions. And then, of course, we'll do our final wrap up as we always do. So having said that, I will begin with the...
Just a moment. I'm wondering, Patsy, if you could provide me the link to today's meeting, because people who signed up yesterday, is that link the same from yesterday as it is to today?
I'll just put it in the, I'll message it to you, Russ.
Yeah, could you?
Check your chat just a second. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is not, because
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I first tried and didn't work. And while you're doing that, I'm just checking to see if there's anyone new here in the chat.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Susan Johnson or Johnston, welcome. Always glad to have more faculty here. So
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're good to go? The link is there, or do you want me to wait to see if others will?
I think if she can email it to me, that would be ideal.
Okay.
I did chat it to you, Russ, but I can email it to you as well.
Yeah, please email it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll just keep moving on here, and hopefully the rest can come in. Yeah, Russ and I, before each Affinity Group meeting, we always make sure that we talk to Anthony Miller, who is the System Director for Min-State's P20 and Student Success Office. And that's the office where the whole co-req movement planning is coming out of. And it's also the office where the steering committee was formed. And I mean, soliciting, opening it up to system and all the various bargaining units and so forth. So we like to talk to him, and he's very forthcoming with us, we think, as much as he's able and whatever is could be shared publicly. So and as I said, you'll hear from more Minnesota State folks on this meeting a little later on. Whenever I give an update from Anthony, I always like to start with a review of Minnesota State's DevEd co-req model implementation plan. And for the last 2 years, they have been focused on phase 1. And what we heard from Anthony is it is now completed, that the parameters, coming up with some consistent parameters around the system for both the structure and kind of the curriculum design for co-req courses has been completed and sent out to the campuses. It was, of course, vetted through surveys and through the steering committee and all the way up through the senior level channels in MnState. So they are now focused on phase 2, and at the heart of phase 2 is pushing everything out to the campuses to let them decide how they're going to implement the co-req model, who's going to teach it, what do they need to do regarding advising and registration, and even the system that, documents how many credits a course is, because the credits will be changing under the new model by adding in a sort of a developmental component to it. So instead of a course maybe being 4 credits, now it's maybe 6 credits. So there's a lot of work to be completed at the campuses. Some have, of course, begun doing a little bit of it already because they've got co-req courses already running, but this is the year to focus on that. And he didn't say anything about the target date changing for, full scale implementation, which at least on this plan is noted as spring of 2028. So I already mentioned regarding the timeline that the phase 1 parameters were approved and been sent out. Well, how they kicked off phase 2 was by holding a meeting in November and asking all of the colleges to bring together or to form their own campus teams. And those would be the teams of the people probably, deciding how this would be rolled out at the campus. And during that large meeting with everybody, they also asked them to identify, I think they ultimately sent out a survey and they're collecting it, which specific people would actually be doing the work of the co-req courses. And he said the teams might include the various positions, across the campus, which would be the faculty from the various disciplines, math, reading, writing, admins, deans, provosts, advisors, and maybe even registrars. Of course, he said they're configured differently at each campus. Some colleges, he said, will not be offering any developmental coursework, so they've opted out of the co-req movement, but he said it's a very small number. And he said what we probably already knew, which is for the co-req courses that are either running or being fully developed right now, it's primarily math, especially because the Math Pathways initiative was started several years ago, and they already had at least, I think it was 22 or 23 of the colleges involved in that. We asked, is there any major pushback on this now that it's going to the campuses? What are you hearing? And he said, if anything, of course, he's hearing from the teams and the office, they're hearing from individuals who may not be buying into the philosophy, which has been, mentioned in this meeting, of course, the concern about those students who are not at the, level of math or reading needing for the co-req course and what will happen there. And he's aware of that, but he said in terms of campuses as a whole, except for those who opted out, they're really all on board. So what I do, and this is especially maybe for anyone who's new to this meeting, I kind of review examples of the parameters in phase one that they came up with in case you say, well, what does that mean? You know, they're looking for some consistency. These were the elements that they were trying to embed into the recommendations. It doesn't mean that every campus has to implement it exactly the same, but, and I'm sure some of our Min-State folks can address this later on, but it's sort of guidelines to say this is what was vetted, and please go forward with these things in mind. That's how I'm understanding it. So what are they focused on now at the system level, right? There are several committees in place, subcommittees. The steering committee, it's really the Developmental Education Steering Committee coming out of the system office. That they're still in existence. And the elements that need to be worked on are still the wraparound supports for student success in these classes, professional development, placement, of course, and then special concerns that the technical colleges have for their tech courses. So I'm going to address a little bit on what he said to us about each of these. And then our Minnesota State folks on hand will give you their perspectives. So on professional development, he said there will be an all-discipline system-wide webinar offered on January 30th regarding professional development. This is regarding, you know, curriculum design and, you know, basically what the parameters, I think, of the courses, you know, mean. Then he said there will be 3 to 4 working webinars for the disciplines in spring, 2 hours at a time. It's not coming out of the Network for Educational Development, which is where some of the courses have been coming out of to date. They're trying to decide who will offer it, how it will be offered. And so the system is wanting to partner with the project teams to learn what's needed. And they are considering bringing in someone from the Dana Center for the math co-reqs, because they were already working on the math pathways with Min-State. They also plan to bring in some internal and technical advisors to help plan the training together. So that's the update there. Colleges, he said, will receive a set amount of funding from the system to support curriculum development. It could be stipends to faculty. He said, unless, you know, if they're really already made significant progress in the math work, on the math courses, then maybe the campus can choose to have it go to reading, which needs to be focused on at this point in time, or expanded if there's only one course. There is flexibility, he said, in how the funds are spent locally. And then regarding the wraparound support, there's a subcommittee, and we'll hear about that today. The committee presently, as I understand it, is surveying colleges around support needs, with the question sort of being asked, what's needed the most to best support student success in these classes? And they're expected to bring the results back of their initial assessments in February, as I understand it. And I think we heard late February yesterday. And I think Matt is here to talk about that, or it might be someone else. Forgive me if I've misstated. What is considered wraparound? Now, Russ asked that question to Anthony. I thought it was a great question. And he said, you know, it's pretty broad. It can involve the various elements that you see here: tutoring, advising, basic needs, mental health supports, and so forth. And he said some might be direct academic supports. Then we asked him, what have the campuses done who've already implemented the co-req courses? And he said, really, they haven't done much differently, at least to this point in time. If anything, he said, some have offered supplemental tutoring in the classroom. And he said, but that poses the greatest structural implementations for the co-req. And perhaps someone who will talk to us in a bit can address what that means. As far as advising, wondering if the advising would change in any way. Would they be adding advisors, changing maybe the model for assigning different advisors specifically to co-req students? Actually, he said, it's more about messaging the student. how to prepare them not to get totally overwhelmed when they now see that they're taking a course that has more credits and two components in it. So we asked, well, in both the wraparound supports and any other area that of concern in these co-req courses, is this potentially where ABE would fit in? And he said, it depends how the course is structured. He sort of put it back that it's a decision at the campus level. And are they building in ABE? And that always raises the question that we know, Russ will address this in a minute or two, 3 minutes maybe. How does ABE work in terms of funding and their capacity to be able to support, an instructor in the co-req course? Then we talked about course placement. And he said, what's coming out of the subcommittee that he's heard is discussing whether or not there should be a floor. And if there is going to be some kind of a floor, what would it look like? And then can campuses choose to opt in to that or not? Discussions taking place. He said this raised some discussion yesterday. He said there are some people who are saying, you know what? Let's get the students into the course, the co-req course, regardless of where they fall in terms of readiness for that content. And even if they fail, it's better for them because then when they take it the second time, they're already at a higher level and they should be able to succeed. And others are saying this is not good. We did hear yesterday from someone, I think it's fair enough to say, because it's on that video, that others are saying this is really totally irresponsible. So, yet to be decided. Looking to California model, that's what he said. They're looking to the California model, and you may want to look it up yourself. I don't have the link here, but I can find it at some point for you. And they're doing different messages to students based on their GPA. So if their GPA, is 2.0 or higher, they might get a message that says, please enroll in this co-req course. And if not, I think there may be some other messages that are coming their way. If anyone has any experience or has researched that, please let us know today later in the discussion. And then the technical colleges, I think this is the last piece. We've got people here from the committee, the subcommittee. They will be developing recommendations that will go to the Academic Affairs Council and eventually will go up to the Senior Vice Chancellor. Anthony said that there are 4 options. Now, yesterday, somebody had a memo, I think, from the committee that showed the 4 options, but the way we understand it is the first option is not keeping the current DevEd course and instead catering to content needs, as opposed to sort of the preparation for college readiness. The second one would be tech prep courses. So there would be a co-req course plus the tech course required, 2 separate things running together. And then one option could be partnering with ABE for summer bridge or boot camp options. And the fourth would be automated self-paced options. And that, of course, goes to the content needs listed in number 1. This has nothing to do with technical colleges, but one other update we heard yesterday is that there was a memo that came out from Jesse Mason, and forgive me, I think he's the Associate Vice Chancellor in Academic Affairs. If not, please put it in the chat. Someone correct me. Sent out a memo where one of the elements in the memo actually did encourage campus teams to consider contacting ABE and partnering with them. And we were extremely pleased to hear that because from my perspective, that's the first time that we've heard someone at the system office of Min State actually write something, push something out that said, you are encouraged to do this. So that was good news to our ears. So that's the end of my updates. Russ, as I mentioned, has a brief update around funding and capacity and what they're doing. Because we heard from you all at the last meeting, whether it was the Friday meeting or the Thursday meeting, could this group please bring some useful information to bear on how that all works? And that was asked particularly by the Min-State folks. So Russ, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. Wonderful update as well. I would just say very quickly that yes, we heard you and we've begun to respond to that desire. And what it's really about is Anna Davis, who met with myself, Julie Dinkow with the State Department of Education ABE unit, and Carly Bushell, who's with Atlas, involved with transitions work. We met, and it was really to talk about how do you create a sustainable sort of partnership model, right? So part of it is understanding what each of the partners needs in that proposition. But there's really this kind of maybe misunderstanding or just lack of understanding about, what's the funding model? What are some of the requirements of adult basic education to get, students involved? And for the program to be able to have revenue, of course, to be able to be a viable partner. So stay tuned on that. We're going to continue to kind of go down that road, see what kind of information would be useful for all of you out there, so that when you embark on a partnership, you're going to do so in a way that's productive. So with that, we're going to kind of start the next phase of our session here today. And we have some wonderful people here today that are going to provide us with some deeper kind of updates about what is going on in a variety of these committees. And so we're going to start with Matt Dempsey. Welcome, Matt. And Matt is going to speak on two items. He's the co-chair of the steering committee for this work and is involved with the placement subcommittee. So Matt, come on down. Tell us more about what's going on with those two efforts, those two entities. All right, Matt.
Yep. Thanks, Russ.
You bet.
I think Leslie covered a lot of it, particularly on what's going on at the highest levels. There was a kickoff meeting back in November, and it was, I think, that somebody from every college and university in the system attended. That didn't mean they had a full team there. And that was kind of the get going. I will say, Leslie, I'm a little less optimistic about where we are in the what direction we have put out there. The parameters document that was approved and has been circulated is not. It's more of an outline, and it's more of a working document for people working on it, not something that was, I don't think, ready to be handed to people to actually start building things with. There's just a lot of questions in there. And so my fear is that people are going to make assumptions about what they're supposed to be doing, and it may not be perfectly aligned with what's expected. So there still needs to be some work done there to actually put that document into the format of things that we do in Minnesota State, that is policy, procedure, operating instructions, et cetera. So there is some work left to do there, but certainly was enough there to get started. But as you noted, there were two glaring areas that needed to be addressed. Technical colleges, many of them don't require college level mathematics, English skills, even writing skills in many cases to complete a degree there. So what do we do? Because you can't have a developmental co-req with a college level course when there's no college level course needed. So, and Anna can talk about that a lot. She was heavily involved there. And then me and Tanya Hanstead did a lot of work on the wraparound services. They are not quite as far along in their work. They, I think, have a survey that's that they're proposing to go out. So they're going to kind of see what the current lay of the land is around some of these services. But when you go out and look at the literature that's out there about co-requisites, those wraparound services are really what the foundation of what makes those work and why you can move from a prerequisite model to a co-requisite model. Without them, there's just you really aren't doing that much that different other than making students take more credits in one semester, and that doesn't necessarily bode well for success. So we're there. We're moving forward, as you heard again in Leslie's update. Because we've kicked this thing off, they're now going to have more regular meetings to, answer questions, support people, and go in that direction. And I think the steering committee's task is to really sort of do a better job of refining exactly what's there. We put out an idea, but I think we also have to put out. It needs to be incumbent upon us to put out things that are more actionable than what we had. That are a little more add a little more clarity to what we've said. So just hearing a lot of questions around the parameter document that's out there. So I'll stop there. That's kind of the steering committee stuff. Then I can talk about our assessment for course placement committee and what it's been doing.
Yeah, and Matt, feel free to kind of just slide right into placement, if you will.
Super. So placement, one of the things that the DevEd steering committee said was and this is where I'm struggling with some of the recommendations or requirements. One of the things was a requirement on the system at the system level to do something about our placement policy. There's been a placement policy that's been out for placing directly into college level courses, so didn't contemplate the co-requisites or lower level courses at all. But that's been sitting out there and has not been acted on for, well, close to 2 years at this point. So, and that's a problem because placement is absolutely critical. Wraparound supports are critical as well as placement. Those are kind of how do we get students into the co-requisite model, and then that's the placement side of it. And then the second part is what do we do when we have them, and a lot of that is about the wraparound support stuff. So that's a problem currently that we don't have established policy around that. However, the second question that was put back to our assessment for course placement committee is, what do we want to do about these co-requisite courses? Should a co-requisite for a composition course be designed so that any student anywhere, no matter what their skills are, should be able to take those extra 2 or 3 credits and along with their college level courses and have a reasonable chance of success? Or do we need to have some sort of a minimum expectation for the students coming in there? And the same is true on the math side. Math is a little bit different. Again, in the document about co-requisites, it clearly states that a standalone beginning algebra course is necessary, I think is the actual language, prior to entering into a co-requisite for college algebra. So exactly where is that cutoff between finishing beginning algebra and starting the co-requisite for college algebra? And then exactly what do we expect students to have for skills coming into a beginning algebra course? Then we also have the co-requisites with statistics and some of our other college level courses. We might have a math for liberal arts. There's more and more discussion around our math for future educators as well, which is called different things. So will that have a co-requisite? What does it need for skills coming in? And most of the subgroups were not of a single mind, but the answer was yes, we think there needs to be some sort of a floor for these co-requisite courses. In other words, there's some sort of basic skills. You can't take someone who is reading at a 3rd grade level and happens to have made their way up through high school, come on in and expect to, in 2 or 3 credits, be able to finish a college composition course kind of thing. So some sort of placement was recommended. We're still working on that. It does appear, though, that the way this will work will be sort of, rather than a system-wide requirement, which is what we do for placing directly into college level courses, that this will be either accept this placement level recommendation, primarily probably based on high school GPA, but we'll also have things set for other tests and things like that, like GEDs and ACTs, SATs, and the MCAs as well. But colleges and universities will be able to either adopt that, or they could have a sort of an open enrollment. Anyone who comes to their college could place into those co-requisite courses should they choose to do it that way. So that's kind of where we are. So there's that recommendation out there. It hasn't made its way through the full process yet, but even if it does, there will then be this sort of opt-in or opt-out option that appears for individual institutions.
Yes, thank you, Matt. We do.
There is a question.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did see a
Matt.
question. Yeah, Matt, and maybe Amber, you could just come on and voice that question.
Yeah. Ooh, my hair's crazy. Sorry, friends. I was just wondering, so obviously I have a unique role as I've been an ABE educator supporting a co-req class, and now I'm a Min State faculty teaching with an ABE support in a co-req class. We've had a lot of questions about, and this maybe isn't a Matt question, it might be more like a Brad or somebody else question, but we're running into a lot of wonderings about can ABE, like, are there classes that ABE can and can't support due to the content? So like, while we're saying in a co-req we are dealing with lower than college level skills, there's been some confusion over whether or not an ABE person can support something like college algebra or like math for educators, which is, those are two classes that we talk about quite a bit. And at ARCC, we have like 8 sections of co-req supported college algebra, but we would love to hear some messaging around, like from the ABE world saying, yes, it is appropriate to have ABE in those classes. So I was just curious if there's been anything along with what Matt is talking about on the ABE side.
Yeah, so that's, in fact, Amber, some of what the questions you have are exactly why I've started attending these meetings. Is my knowledge of ABE was minimal at best. I think I'm getting better, but and so that is exactly why I'm here, is to kind of listen and learn about how and how ABE, what models are out there that can connect ABE with what we're doing, at least at the 2-year colleges and potentially at the universities as well, because that's just not something that I have a great deal of knowledge of. And as Leslie noted, there is certainly expectations, aspirations that ABE will be one of those places that we can partner to have a more robust co-requisite offering at our 2-year colleges. So
yeah, thank you, Matt. And Brad, are you comfortable kind of coming on and kind of responding or giving us something to, if you're there?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I'm also on owl delivery. I'm in Northfield at the moment, so I am on the road. Yes, happy to give an initial answer, and definitely can help dive deeper into the subject. The core criteria for eligibility in adult education is identified in the WIOA, the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, as well as in state statute. And we've articulated the eligible student and eligible content in those 2 policies at mnabe.org is where you can find those, the eligible student policy for adult education, or ABE, and the eligible content policy. So first, an individual has to be an eligible student. And for most Minnesota State students, that is not a problem. They have to be at least 17 years old. They cannot be enrolled in K-12, and they have to have an educational need that aligns with ABE eligible content. So then you go over to the eligible content policy, and by law, we are adult basic education provides education below the post-secondary level. So we shouldn't be teaching college or post-secondary content. It should be below post-secondary content that aligns with high school content standards. But we also know that there can be a little bit of a gray area where something might be taught in college and in high school, right? So there is definitely some gray area there, but it really should be high school level content, and in the areas of English language arts, math, other high school subjects, et cetera, including helping folks prepare for post-secondary and for employment and training. So that's the kickoff of what I would say, but let's dive into the nuances or where the questions lie. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, that's great, Brad. And maybe that could be a future topic for us, right? To kind of delve a little more deeply into that and talk a bit of that through. But thank you, Brad, and Matt, thank you for articulating what's going on with those two committees and some of the nuances and the sort of challenges really of kind of coming to this kind of real more stable place where campuses are guided, well guided into their work into this co-req realm. So thank you for that. We're going to now move into an update from Anna Davis. And I know, Anna, you need to leave around 11 o'clock. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear from Anna, and then we're going to, open it up to any questions for Anna so that before she leaves, we get the ability to kind of engage with her. So Anna, you're on at this time.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
And then I think if there are questions after I have to get off of the call, Matt Dempsey probably can
Help with that.
Yeah, he knows everything. Okay. As Leslie, or we've been talking about, there's that big developmental education steering committee, combination of state folks, state MSCF, and system office people. We had that year of work groups of math, reading, and writing. Those recommendations came out of that, right? On how do we do co-req. I'm really realizing the value of being a part of these conversations, like Matt said, because you learn things that surprise you. And, as I was a part of that, I realized, wow, we're making decisions for some of these colleges, but not others. For example, technical colleges. So anyway, from that big group and that year of work, we ended up coming out with 2 breakout groups, one on wraparound supports, because we felt like we needed to flesh that out more, and one for the technical programs. Because of the issue that Matt was talking about, I think it was Matt that said this, that technical programs, many of them will have diplomas, sometimes a degree, where they're not actually requiring college level math or reading, or obviously not reading, but writing. And they've been relying on developmental ed to get their students to the skill level that they need to be at to do the work in their programs, but also do the work in the field. And they don't, something like a college level writing would actually be a barrier to those students, they felt, right? So we don't want to create more barriers by just saying, oh, now we've got to, we're taking away developmental ed. We're going to put college level in these when those students don't really need all that material, but they need those skills to get to that level to be able to do that work in the program. So I color my hair, but there's a lot more grays in there now after this past year, I think. I'm not going to call that work fun, but we worked really hard and finally came up with some recommendations that we brought to that came to the voting stage in November. So that was on December 3rd. We, after, doing some of this, we began to collaborate a little bit more and came up with some recommendations that came to a vote and was passed forward. And then on the 5th of December, that came to that larger DESC committee, and that passed that as well. And I'm not going to make it sound like it was unanimous because it wasn't. Neither one of these levels. But it passed through. And then we talked about, I was here yesterday too, and we talked about where are we at with that? And I actually, to just be a little more helpful with that question, pulled up a email from Anthony Miller that I wrote to him at the beginning of the semester saying, can you give me a sense of the time frame for those recommendations? Because I know that it's beyond that. It still needs further approval. So he said those recommendations will go to AAC for review before they're sent on for final decision. So it will take some time before there's an official call one way or another. We'll present them at AAC later this month and be able to share back feedback or questions with the steering committee, which I know also meets later this month.
And AAC, Academic Affairs Council. What are we referring to, Anna?
Yeah, Matt's nodding his head yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think, Matt, you're on that, right? You're on that too. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so I was also reflecting on the fact that Anthony shared what he shared with you, Russ and Leslie, and that makes it sound to me like he's kind of expecting that to go through, but we don't know anything for sure. And it sounded to me like it would be, later February or something like that, that we would find out for sure, or if it would come back to that technical programs group. Does that sound right, Matt? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the things what we ended up putting forward was a recommendation that addresses the problem that we were dealing with and 4 different recommendations. So instead of just completely wiping out DevEd standalone for technical programs, leaving them no really other option aside from college level writing, we decided to propose something called an innovative tech prep, which would take math, writing, or reading, and adapt that a bit more to really specific program needs. So that will be a lot of work on top of the co-req. So at a place like Hennepin Technical College, we will have co-req for programs that have that college level writing or math. We'll have that available. But we'll also have this tech prep. Or maybe some colleges will say, well, we want to rely completely on ABE, or maybe a mixture of both, or we're going to use something like Alex for math. So you mentioned like an automated sort of system. And that's a possibility that some people in math really believe in. So that will be up to the college at that point. If this all moves forward, it'll be up to the college, the faculty at that college, obviously, who teach in those programs and teach in math, writing, and reading. What should I add, Russ? Did I miss anything from yesterday that you want me to talk about?
No, I don't think, Anna. I just think that it's just wonderful that people like you are involved in these efforts because it is complex. It is difficult to address problems with one singular solution, right? Which is co-req. Let's just do this co-req thing, right? So there's a lot of nuances to it. There's a lot of complications to it. And it's wonderful that people like you, Anna, are there making sure that that's understood, right? So
Thanks,
I would ask to, open it up to the group and find out if there's any questions that the group may have for you, Anna, or even going back to something that maybe Matt, referenced or talked about. So let's just open it up at this stage.
You have a hand up from Tony?
Yeah, Tony.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is just an I was writing and not listening question. This is actually a Brad question. The
Okay.
conditions on coursework to be eligible for ABE, is that below the post-secondary level or below the secondary level? I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, the eligible content is content that is below the post-secondary level.
Okay, so
Right.
all the way up to 12th grade.
Absolutely.
Got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. That's great. Well, I think
There's one
anything
more
more?
question. It looks like Amber.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for paying attention to that. I'm trying to cycle here. I see Amber's hand now. Sorry.
So it might be a Matt question and it might be a everybody in the team question. So I am currently teaching a co-req and it is our first week of class. And one of the things that we are working on and working with is that when we have ABE partners in our groups, we get TABE data. And that TABE
And
data,
what
so
is
TABE
and TABE being what? Let's just
so I was just going to say that. So TABE is the test of adult basic education. It is a requirement that ABE programs do. It's one of the tests that they can do to show growth in students to help them be able to do their programming the way that they need to do. And one of the things that we're finding, and one of the things that we're challenged with right now is we have a couple students who have gotten into the college algebra co-req, but our TABE tests are kind of ranked, leveled, if you will. So like an E is one of the lowest level tests that you can possibly have. And we have students that are tabing at the like first grade level on the TABE. And so one of the things that we're looking at Anoka Ramsey is if we're embedding ABE, how can we use TABE data to guide proper placement in addition to the other things? And I was just really curious if Matt had heard anything about that in placement or if there was other ABE programs that had been doing something, because with that first week of class being the magical window to get students in and out of a class without penalty, we are racing to get our TABE scores as fast as we can. So as soon as I get off this call, I'm actually going to meet with advisors to try to get students who are on an E-level TABE out of college algebra. But I was just curious, Matt, if there's conversations happening there or if other ABE programs are thinking about how to leverage that tool.
Well, I was just scrambling to go take a look at the proposed policy to see if we included TABE in it. I don't know. And I think one of the problems is that the current placement policy is meant to be very broad. If you have any kind of work that could help place you, that's good enough. So if that's something that's needed, then that's probably going to have to be something that we make part of those courses that students either do that during the first week or otherwise have to complete that if that's needed for ABE, because that's one of those things that I'm here to learn is how the requirements for ABE and the funding and everything else is very different than what it is for us at the two-year colleges.
Yeah, and I agree with that. We are collecting at Anoka Ramsey a lot of data on TABE scores, where they were placed, and how they succeed in co-reqs. And so it would be nice if we were able to see how other programs were doing that. So maybe Russ, that's something you can try to do. And I know Matt, you hear from us at ARCC all the time of doing these kinds of things. So I was just curious.
Yeah.
Quickly in Austin with Riverland Community College, we use the CASAS test, not the TABE test, but it's very similar. And yeah, we just did our pre-testing yesterday as well. And looking at that data, we have students testing in the lower elementary grades, but then we also have students at the highest level as well. So then the question is, should they truly be in this co-req model? Because are they ready? Can they do it? And do they, if they're testing so high, do they need it?
Right.
Ultimately, we've
Valid.
decided they're in the class and we use that data to know like who needs a little bit more help here and there. But again, it's just more, we use it more of a data collection tool and to see the growth. What's really nice is especially in the tech math courses, there is so much growth because, students that maybe didn't like math, or they're going into a specific trade because they don't think they need to use the high school level math. When we go over those things, it's really cool to see the growth over the semester, but we don't necessarily use it as, no, you can't be in this class anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Katie, that's wonderful. Thanks for that contribution. Appreciate it. Anything more on this particular question or topic?
Did you see the question from Laura in the chat?
Yeah, let me look. Could you just comment what that is? I'll dig it up here, but
I sure can. Or Laura, do you want to just speak up?
yeah, that'd be great.
Just wondered about what the role of EAP or ESL is playing in these conversations at all. It feels like it's really essential piece, but yet it's also seems blatantly kind of missing from the planning and work.
Actually, I think I'm going to jump in because we did ask some of those questions a year or 2 years ago. Russ and I met with the folks that were leading sort of ESL. I don't know if it was policy formation. Russ, maybe help me out, but what we learned both from them and I think from Anthony and Minnesota State folks, correct me again if I'm wrong, is while everyone has that concern, students can sort of go the ESL track or go the
That's my
co-req
recollection.
track.
Yeah.
They're not married together. It's kind of one or the other. And I think it's up to advising or, I'm not sure if that would be part of the wraparound services, like a navigator to help a student decide which route to go. But it's not embedded, as far as I know, in discussions, with these partnerships or even with the co-req. So Min-State folks, help me out. Did I
Anna,
say that well?
do you have
Yeah.
something to say about that? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've got to get off the call, but
Yep.
what I would say to that is, well, at least at Hennepin Tech, students can choose that, but also, well, I should say historically they could choose it. A couple years ago, our administration decided to suspend our ESOL program. So some colleges don't even have that as a resource. But I bet that Matt can talk more about it too, where we're at with the ESL. I mean, I see it come up in flickers, but I totally agree with you, Laura. It's a thing that's being kind of neglected.
Matt,
Anyway, I'm
anything?
gonna get off the call, Russ, but
Yeah,
thanks,
thank you,
everybody.
Anna. Thank you, Anna. Great to see you. Thanks for your involvement today.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, I sit on a lot of committees. I'm not on the ESL one. There's been a separate, when we look at placement, there was sort of a separate work group around ESL. They've brought forth some proposals kind of in parallel with placement because I think there's a recognition that English language skills are very different than just someone's necessarily how well prepared they are to do college level work. Certainly there's some overlap, but it isn't quite the same of a student who's born and raised in the United States, grew up speaking English and not being ready for college level work. So I don't have their recommendations easily accessible. So, but there's group working on that, and I think they've struggled as well with getting the system to kind of act on that. A lot of the COVID stuff, and then much of the push from the legislature to look at placement strategies and things has slowed that down. So
yeah,
thank you, Jan-May. You probably have a better knowledge of that than I do.
Yeah, let's just leap over to Jan-May. Thank you, everyone. And now Jan-May is going to talk to us a little bit about Wraparound Services Subcommittee and a grant proposal that she was instrumental in putting together.
Thank you. Matt already covered almost all. I mean, most of the things about the. Can I share?
Yep. Let's
Okay.
just pull this down, and then yes, we can do that.
About the wraparound support subcommittee group work. we presented to the DESC, Developmental Education Steering Committee, on December the 5th. And then we these are the 5 areas we are tentatively recommending at that time. Embedded tutoring, which means tutors attend the class with the instructor and students, and then provide in-class facilitation. And then after the class, the tutor continues to support students. So that's the embedded tutoring format. This format is repeatedly recommended through research. Success coaching is another model, which means that the usually professionals and sometimes students, it depends on funding. The success coach follows the students' academic journey throughout the program, even beyond. For example, the CUNY model, they start from CUNY Start and then CUNY ASAP. So throughout their educational journey, stay in touch with one person who knows them academically and socially, emotionally, to provide guidance. And then early alert system, for example, Century College, we have we can post information about students' progress or lack of progress on the Starfish, which is an early alert system. Ideally, in the ideal situation, advisors would take a look at them and reach out to students. However, because advisors are so overwhelmed, a lot of the times, according to my personal experience, I would also send an email to the advisors so that they could immediately get involved with a student if the student is not doing well. So in ideal situation, then the next thing we recommended is to have some kind of a one-stop shop, which is a model South Central College has been using successfully. We heard about this practice from a colleague on the wraparound support group subgroup. So he shared with us how that has been done. They even came up with a survey sent out to students and collected information and came up with this model. According to him, highly successful. And another recommendation we came up tentatively is to provide sustained support for co-requisite students beyond gateway course success. The co-requisite push, I think, mostly gained momentum because of the gateway successes we have been seeing almost everywhere in most situations. However, to which extent those students can sustain the momentum to succeed, that's questionable. The most recent research, according to the 2025 research by Ran and Ling, is that students from disadvantaged backgrounds, students from with low academic skills, they are the people who are not being served in this model. Actually, it disproportionately disadvantaged those group of people. Earlier in the discussion, Leslie mentioned the Maine State's comments or somebody's comments about, well, if the co-requisite students if the students with very low academic skills, if they are in the co-requisite round for the first time, if they don't succeed, they can retake it. And then maybe based on what they learned from the first time, they would succeed in the second time. I think I was the person who said yesterday that was a very irresponsible practice. It is academically demoralizing and also dehumanizing. I used both words yesterday. I'm going to repeat these words today for not only students, but also for instructors, because we have to go through this with our students, and the students will have to go through this. Thinking I mean, putting aside other responsibilities in their lives, their family, their work, let alone the extra financial burden. So somebody in the chat, read the comment, it's educational malpractice. I just don't know who would have the heart to even say that if a student doesn't pass it the first time, they could try it next time and then be successful. How can they be guaranteed they would be successful for the next time? I think we should really think about those words from certain people, especially when those words are from the higher up level, and the impact on the morale of educators and students. So in the survey we developed, we mainly asked people these, five, whether their college, their local campuses have implemented those or not, and if not, why, and how they want to move forward. In addition to those questions, we also asked what are the practices that have been implemented on your campus, co-requisite or not, that you think have contributed to student success. And also we asked the question of, in ideal situations, what kind of support would you like to have? The survey hopefully will be sent out by the end of this month. Now it's going through some initial feedback from colleagues and also from the work group people. We are hoping to administer it soon and collect data in February and present the recommendations to the DESC at the end of the month. Originally, we were hoping to survey all the stakeholders, but at the DESC meeting last fall, last one, we were sort of, talked into surveying only faculty and advisors. However, over the winter, while we were developing the survey, we thought, no, we want to survey more people. We want to survey administrators. We want upper level. And at the dean's level, we also want to survey advisors, counselors, and, students, academic support staff. The logic is that this might be the last time we can provide some kind of wraparound support before the sweeping mandate is being pushed upon us. At least through this survey, we can collect some data and make our recommendations more grounded. So we'll see how it will go when we send the survey to Min-State people, whether the upper level people or the deans, they want to participate or not. That's basic. I'm sorry, I talked a little bit over time.
Yeah, well, Yan-Mei, let's hope they all do take the opportunity to provide input at this stage. And in the spirit of time, I'm going to have you shift to the grant work, because that's a pretty big deal. That opportunity for some professional development and some connecting with partners. Could you tell us more about that?
Amber is also here. Okay. Thank you, Russ. You were the person that brought me to this space, and through the conversations and through getting to know the work people are doing on the ABE level, I realized that there's the big disconnect, which Amber can talk more because she's a veteran in ABE, and now she is MSCF faculty. So the grant I proposed, I submitted, co-submitted with Amber, the purpose is to bring people from ABE to our professional development, not professional development, but professional conferences on the Min-State, at the Min-State side. However, I want to clarify that this is a grassroots effort, means that people are not involved. It's just a faculty-driven effort. So on the ABE side, there's coordinated efforts. I mean, to get connected with us. However, I don't think there has been any coordinated effort at all from the state level, state system level. Therefore, I think this is not, from my perspective, this is our desperate effort to look for help for our students, for our colleagues, so that we can find ways to better serve our students. The purpose is to there are a few Min State faculty conferences, like Minnesota Developmental Education Conference in September, and then Minnesota Writing and English Conference in spring. And there's a 2-year math conference in the fall. Now they're talking with MINAID, which is the Minnesota Developmental Education Conference, so that we can work together in the fall to have a conference. The money the funds we have applied will be used for those purposes, inviting speakers, create conference scholarships, which will enable us to get to know each other, to get into, for example, to attend ABE meetings and conferences and, trainings, those kind of things. So that is the main purpose of the grant. Education, Minnesota members like us, we're not benefiting from the grant. It's only for those purposes, basically getting each other into others' spaces. Amber, do you want to share a little bit more about your thoughts, since you are going to be, you have been instrumental in terms of, developing ideas, and in the future, especially if we do get the grant, in terms of, implementation of those great ideas. Amber, I would appreciate it if you can share some thoughts.
I'll be super brief.
Amber, before you do so, we just have about a minute. And then the other thing is, just to quickly wrap this part up, the timeline on this is that by June, there's some decisions made about this, or is it quicker than that, Yanmei, around who gets selected for the grant?
In June. We'll be notified in June. I was told in March I might be contacted if we need to provide additional information.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. Okay, Amber, take it away.
Yeah, and I'll be super brief. So I am obviously still a part of the Atlas supported M&I A team. So I'm still on the math committee that serves ABE communities. So in addition to being a part of MINAID and MINMATIC, so I am really working on making sure that we are aware of each other's sandboxes and keeping ourselves communicated. I'm actually representing ABE on the MINMATIC board. So if there are people that are in the ELA world or things like that, we just want to make sure that we are playing in each other's sandboxes as much as possible. So in terms of making sure ABE's interests and things were represented on the grant, that was kind of the lens that I brought to it, is just making sure that our ABE language, needs, and experiences were really brought forward, but then also about how, as now on the other side, understanding how we can be really working together. So, Russ, I'm done with my time, but I do see Rhonda has had her hand up for a really long time, so I want to make sure we don't miss her.
Yeah, thank you for noting that. Rhonda, yes. Thank you for your patience, Rhonda.
No problem. Thank you, Amber. Yanmei, I had a comment and a question. First of all, thank you so much for pushing back against this ridiculous idea that if students have to take a class a second time around, then so what? Not only is it damaging for students, but I think that either directly or indirectly, pass rates are used to sort of make decisions and measure things. And so it would be detrimental to faculty, at least on my campus. to have students having to repeat classes. So I think that's problematic on several levels. So thank you for that. But my question is, you mentioned under wraparound services, you were talking about sustained support for students after they successfully pass a gateway course. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. I'm glad you brought it up. But do you have some idea of a timeline when more information will be provided on that? Or is that left to interpretation for each individual campus? Or what is that going to look like?
The survey, we are going to administer the survey, and then by the end of February, the recommendations will be submitted to DESC for approval. So I will try to keep that as one of the recommendations, because again, according to research, that is the key to keep students not only in the program but also graduate.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rhonda, for that question. And we're going to wrap up, folks. And, you know, I started this meeting by saying this was a warm meeting. This was a hot meeting. I mean, this was remarkable information that was shared. And I just want to thank everybody, all of our presenters, for being here today and really enriching all of our knowledge and understanding of where we're at with this. And you can, as you can see, it's difficult work, but people are stepping up, and so because of that, we're going to have a much more excellent outcome for our students and for our educators that are working with these students. And so I'm going to turn it back to Leslie, and Leslie is going to do some wrap up here, and then we will see you in April. She'll tell you more about that as well.
Well, thanks everybody. And before, I just have like 1 minute of stuff to say, but I want to be clear, and this is to be fair to Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller we did not hear from anybody at the system office that they're saying that students should take the course twice. Okay, it wasn't coming from there. He said this is what he's hearing. We asked him, between your knowing what's coming up from the committees and what you're hearing on the ground level, what are you hearing? So he's hearing it from some people, but I just want to make sure that we state that on the record, okay? But we probably agree that it may not be the best practice, right? So I just want to be able to add that as well. So the Affinity Group does have resources for anyone who's new here. If you want to check it out, not only on the Affinity Group, but on the work of the co-req that's being done through the Affinity Group here. And then we wanted to just say, we certainly hope you'll be attending again in April 9th or 10th. You pick one. If you haven't registered for those meetings, and I thank Patsy for putting the links into the chat. Make sure you do, and you'll get the web links for attending. So thank you to everybody who attended and for all the people who were able to speak today. I know there's some more questions. So as we've done in the past, Russ, I think you'll agree. For those who want to stay on, maybe and ask more questions, Matt, I don't know if you can stay on. Looks like Rhonda might have had another question for you. Feel free to stay on for a bit. For today, I can only stay on for about 10 more minutes. But anyway, thank you. Have a great rest of the winter, and may we all stay safe in Minnesota.
Right. Thank you for that, Leslie. And Rhonda, thank you for raising your hand. What can we address?
Matt, it was a little concerning to me to hear that the parameters that were given by Anthony Miller are not solid and things that we should necessarily be making decisions about. Could you say more about what parts of that are not concrete yet?
So I wouldn't say they're not concrete. I just think the way in which they're written generates some questions. So this idea that they are put out as recommended parameters that are sort of requirements, and then many folks are going down, and then in some places it says, well, do this, but it's pretty clear that in the discussion that was more of a gee, this is probably a good thing to do, but not a must thing to do. So there's a lot of those kinds of questions that are going around. So it's not that what's written there is inaccurate or might change. I just don't think it's as clear as it could be sometimes.
Okay, we're leaning heavily on that document to make decisions on my campus, so I want to be clear.
No, and I think you're good to go there. But I mean, for example, I don't think Tony's still here, but we had a meeting with the vice president at Normandale, and it says, class sizes 20, maybe 25, and they're like, oh no, we can't do that. Well, is that a requirement or is that a recommendation, right?
Right.
The other big one is beginning algebra leading into college algebra with a co-req. It says, in order to offer a co-requisite college algebra course, it is necessary to offer a standalone beginning algebra class. To me, that sounds like you must do this. There isn't another way to do it. This is necessary. There's been a lot of people going, well, do we have to do it that way or can we do it a different way? And so this is where, that's what I'm talking about, that it really hasn't been distilled down into, I also sit on like the policy council. And I mean, we wordsmith down to the last semicolon and conjunction that's there. And so that's why I think there's an awful lot of questions out there. So I would also make sure there's a frequently asked questions document that's out with that as well. Make sure you're looking at that. Submit your questions to that. So, so that we can help others understand what's going on. So if I misspoke to say that it wasn't what we intended, no, it's just not the format. I don't think is as user-friendly as it could or should be. And so it's leading to some questions.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Rhonda. And
Rhonda, what campus are you at, if I can ask?
I'm at North Hennepin in the reading department.
All right. Well, one of those unicorns of a reading department that are still left around the system.
Yeah, we're shrinking quickly, but we're still there.
Yeah. And I think potentially going to be more important than ever, given some of the things that we're doing. So,
well, folks, thank you. Thank you for attending. What like I said earlier, it's a phenomenal discussion, and we want to just thank everybody for your engagement and your interest in this really important area. So with that,